Good morning, everybody out there. As y'all coming in, hope everybody's having a great start to your day, great week, great month, whatever it is, whatever your situation is. If you may be watching this on replay, shout out to everybody who is watching this live. Today's topic, what we're going to talk about, is 4 key things that you should understand about human nature. And I'm going to explain to you why this matters, why you need to understand these things. Actually, the basic reason why you need to understand this stuff is because you're always going to be dealing with humans, or most of you in your daily lives, you're dealing with human beings, whether those are people you're in, whether it's a spouse, whether it's your kids, whether it's your coworkers, your customers, strangers on the street, somebody sitting next to you on the airplane. You're dealing with human beings all the time. So I'm going to give you 4 key understandings you need to have about human nature that'll help you in your communications, that'll help you in your decision making, and it'll help you move yourself forward faster in life, because most of the things that we do to move ourselves forward involve other human beings. So the first thing you need to understand about human nature, folks, is that it's not changing. So these things that I'm going to share with you here today are things that will always exist. They will always be true. They will always be applicable to most of the people who you're going to deal with. Therefore, the better you understand it, the better you'll be able to deal with human nature as it is. Okay, so the definition of human nature is the general psychological characteristics, feelings, and behavioral traits of humankind regarded as, here's the key term, shared by all humans, meaning everybody has these things. It applies to damn near everybody. This is far from a conclusive list, what I'm going to share here today. This is not everything about human nature, but there are 4 key things about human nature that I found, if people better understand these, it would help you in your engagements and your dealings with other people. So with that framing established, let me introduce myself, then we're going to get into these points. And again, I'm going to give you 4 today. I'm a former 9-year professional athlete. I'm an author of 35 books. I've done 4 TEDxTalks. I created this brand called Work on Your Game, where we extract the tools to help athletes get to the top of the sports world, top 2% of the sports world, and we translate those tools to the business and professional world to help professionals like you perform at your highest level, do so consistently, and make more money in your business. That is our goals: performing at your highest level, doing it consistently, and making more money in your business. And again, as I told you today, we're going to talk about 4 key traits of human nature. So I'm going to tell you what each trait is. I'm going to tell you why it is. I'm going to tell you maybe some manifestations of it, how you see it, what it looks like and feels like, and then what you need to do about it. Number 1, people will do and say things that make no sense whatsoever to you. How many of you listening to this, whether you're watching on replay or you're watching live, has ever had a person, even somebody you know or somebody you don't know, do something or say something that made absolutely no sense whatsoever to you, but when you think about it, it seems as if it made perfect sense to them, even though you still believe it didn't make any sense? You might think that they're dumb. You might think that they were stupid. Maybe you think they were being overridden with emotion or caught up in the moment. But has any of you ever seen someone do or say something that made absolutely no sense? And you're like, what the hell are you doing? What are you thinking? Is this person retarded? Are you drunk? Are you high? Are you not understanding what I understand? Everybody has had this experience where somebody just did something that just made no sense. Now, here's the thing. As long as that person was a sane individual who had control of their mental faculties, it probably made some sense to them, which is why they did it. Now, we can admit, all of us have sometimes maybe done things that made no sense ourselves, maybe because for whatever reason we were caught up in a moment, whatever the situation was. But for the most part, we do things because it makes sense to us, even though it may not make sense to another person. But other people do things, by the same token, that makes sense to them, but it doesn't make sense to someone else, maybe like you. And I want you to understand that this is okay. All right, this is human nature. Human nature is that we don't all think alike. We are not all wired the same. We definitely don't have the same life experiences. And the older we get, the more different our life experiences are from other people, which means other people have reasons for doing things that wouldn't make sense to you because their background is different from yours. All right, their last 10 years is completely different from your last 10 years. So their frame of reference is completely different from yours. So understand that people will do things that make no sense to you, and you need to have the maturity and the grace and give them the grace of understanding, okay, they may do some things that just don't add up to me, but I got to let them be who they want to be because that's what they're going to do anyway. You're not going to be able to, for the most part, convince another person to not think the way that they think. You can show them things, you can set an example, but you can't make somebody change. So you have to let people be who they want to be, and you can either meet them where they're at and maybe slowly bring them over to where you are, or find people who are already on the same wavelength as you and deal with them. That's usually the easier way. But you can also influence and persuade people over time, but it's it doesn't work with everybody, and it also takes a longer amount of time to do it. So I just got another violation warning. It said my live is flagged for hate speech and hateful behavior. This is on TikTok. So those of y'all watching on TikTok or Instagram, I just got a note that said your live is flagged for hate speech and hateful behaviors. Repeated violations could result in your live being discontinued. I don't know if this is TikTok's AI bots watching me and saying that I'm saying something, or if it's somebody who is watching the live and saying this. So I don't know how that's happened. I don't know why this keeps happening on TikTok. So like my last 3 or 4 TikTok lives, that has happened. I don't know if it's a person doing it or if it's TikTok's AI bot, but either way, TikTok needs to fix that. Anyway, beauty of humanity is that we're not all the same. All right, so people will do things that just don't make sense to you. Point number 2, we're talking about 4 key things you need to understand and accept about human nature. Number 2, social proof matters. Social proof. What is social proof? Social proof is simply you or anyone else showing other people that they would not be the only person doing a thing. In other words, it's letting people know that, hey, you aren't the only one doing this. Look at all these other people who are doing this. You should probably do it because everybody else is doing it. That's social proof. Now, the way that I just framed that, some of you may look at that and say, well, that sounds like maybe a negative thing, but understand that this works on all of us. As I said, it's human nature, which means this applies to everybody. It applies to other people the same way it applies to you. Social proof is simply letting somebody know that there are a bunch of other people already doing a thing, and you usually use social proof as a way of vetting and building credibility for yourself, and also as a tool for persuading other people that they should come join a group of people who are already doing a thing. That's what social proof is. You want to see an example of social proof, you don't have to go anywhere. Just look on this very app that you're on right now. Social media is a form of social proof. Social is why it's called social media, social proof. Social proof could be simply looking at somebody's profile on a social media platform, seeing how many followers they have, or seeing how many likes somebody got on a post, or seeing how much engagement somebody got on something that they're doing. These are all form of social proof. When somebody's selling something online, they have a website. What do you usually see somewhere on their website? You see testimonials, you see feedback, you see ratings, you see 5 stars. On Amazon, what do you see? You see the ratings. Every time you look at a product, they show you the ratings, and then you can go read the reviews. What are those? Those are forms of social proof. Hopefully, if it's positive, it's positive social proof. If it's negative social proof. The social proof is just showing people that you have done a thing that builds credibility in their eyes. And different types of proof have different levels of effects on different people. So some people want to see social proof. They just want to see a lot of people. Some people want to see someone who looks or sounds like them. So if I'm selling a product and a woman's looking at my page, she wants to see a woman who has left a positive review, not just men. Or if I'm selling a product to a white guy, he wants to see white guys who left a positive review, not just black guys. So your social proof can vary depending on who you're looking to influence or persuade. And again, different people are influenced by different things, but they're all different forms of social proof. To give you another example of social proof, if you're looking at the screen right now, what do you see behind me? You see a bookshelf with a bunch of books on it. These are all my books. Those books are a form of social proof. It's a form of me showing you that I'm about something, I've done something. I'm not just talking about these things. I'm actually out there doing it. Everything you can see behind me is something that I've created and something that I have available for sale. That's a form of social proof. If you go to one of my websites, you'll see testimonials and feedback about whatever the product is that I'm selling. That's a form of social proof. Human beings, all of us, every single one of us, we are all followers at heart. We are all followers. Now, I know some of you are also leaders, but even when you're a leader, you're also a follower. We are attracted to strong personalities, even if that personality is wrong, and we are attracted to a person who seems to be being followed by other people. When someone is being followed by, quote unquote, everybody else, we tend to get in line and follow that person as well. This is generally how the business world, when it comes to, yesterday I talked about personal brands, this is generally how the business world works. In the business world, I heard somebody say this many years ago. They said it's a bandwagon industry. Bandwagon industry simply means that as soon as it becomes obvious that a bunch of people are listening to you, then everybody else wants to listen to you. But when nobody's listening to you, then nobody wants to listen to you. So it's like this threshold. When you get over that threshold of everybody seems to be paying attention to you, then all of a sudden everybody's paying attention to you just because. Not because you got any better, not because you're even actually good, just because you're popular. A bunch of other people are just going to get in line and they're going to do the same thing that everyone else is doing because human beings are followers. We are trained from birth to look around and see what everybody else is doing and do it. They teach you that in school. They teach you that at work. And most people spend their entire lives, they go to school. First, your parents tell you to follow them, do what they say. But then you go to school and they tell you to what? Listen to the teacher and do what all the other kids are doing. And then you graduate from school and you get a job, and then you work for the rest of your life. So people spend their entire lives in school and at work doing what? Complying and doing what they see everybody else doing. So this is why I can confidently say that people are followers. Look around at social media. What is it based around? It's based on content. Hey, you send a text message to your friend, go look at this video on TikTok because it's funny. What is that? You are telling them to go look at a thing that is probably very popular and the reason they should go look at it is because everybody else is looking at it. All right, human beings are followers. So don't be mad about this. What you should do instead is figure out a way that you can position, any of you who are entrepreneurs or salespeople, position your offer, whatever you're offering to the marketplace, as something that everybody else is already doing, because that will entice other people to want to do the same thing. So once the bandwagon gets moving in life, what happens is everybody else wants to go run and jump on it, even if they don't even know what's happening. They don't even know what's going on. All right, so you want to get social proof on your side, and then combine that with actual substance, and then you'll be playing the game at an even higher level. Again, notice I said the word substance. Don't forget about that part. Number 3, we're talking here today about 4 key traits of human nature that you should understand and appreciate. And these are things that apply to all human beings. Number 3, emotion will always trump logic. Emotion is always trumping logic. Understand that people make decisions based on their emotions, and then they come up with logical justifications to make that decision sound like it was a smart one. So emotion will always trump logic, and every day of the week, twice on Sunday. So if you want to move a person to action, it is easier to move them through their emotions than it is to move them through logic. There are some people out there who can be moved through logic, and at certain points, all of us can be moved through logic, but most of the time, more often than not, if we're going to be influenced or persuaded to action, it needs to be through our emotions, not through our logical thinking. First of all, logical thinking is hard to do. It's mental effort, and most people are lazy. And that's another trait of human nature that's not on my list here today, but people are naturally lazy. So if you're asking people to do any type of thinking, then you're asking a lot. Most people don't want to do that. Instead, if you trigger their emotions, it doesn't take effort to get an emotion triggered. It's an instinctive thing that happens. It's wired in us as human beings. So it's much easier to reach somebody through their emotions than through logic, because if you try to reach people through logic, then you must require them to think. You are requiring them to use their intellect, which they may not even have. But if you trigger their emotions, everybody has those. Even the most intellectual person on the planet has emotions. But the most emotional person in the world doesn't necessarily have intellect. So you are narrowing your audience when you focus on logic. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, I write books after all. And you had to have some level of intellect to even be looking for a book, let alone to sit down and read it. But the point is, if you want to move a bunch of people, you got to get them emotional. This is why you never see a line of people outside of the library, because what's in the library? There's nothing emotional in the library. It's just a bunch of books. You got to think and you got to read in order to absorb whatever's in the library. And you will always see a line of people outside of, let's say, a concert or a movie theater. Why is that? Because the concert and the movie theater touches people on an emotional level, not on a logical level. So when you are selling your stuff, figure out what the emotional trigger is that will move people to do something, because on logic alone, it's going to be very hard to move most people, and it's going to be very hard to move anyone most of the time. Point number 4. We're talking here today about traits of human nature, key traits of human nature that you should accept and appreciate. Number 4, people yearn for purpose. People need a purpose. People need a reason for being, a reason for existing. And many people go through life with no reason for being, no reason for existing. They're kind of just going through the motions, wake up every day, go to work, do their thing, and go home. That's pretty much how many people live. And when you can show people something that they can believe in, something they can attach themselves to, something to follow, a purpose to connect themselves to, they will get on board and do whatever you say, completely disregarding logic. Why? Because you've given them a purpose, and people need a purpose. It says in the Bible, I'm paraphrasing, without a vision, people perish. If people don't have a purpose and a vision, a reason for waking up in the morning, they usually at some point they stop waking up in the morning. This is the reason why a lot of people, when they retire, they end up dying, because they don't have anything to do. So even when someone retires from a career or a business, or just they retire like old people retire, you still got to have something to do every day, because if you don't have a thing to do, eventually you're just going to die, because, all right, I don't have a reason to get up. Eventually your body's going to say, all right, well, let's just not get up anymore, and it'll be over. You got to have a purpose. And this is the reason why when you look at those of you in the United States, you look at the political landscape, and every 4 years when we have the presidential elections and people get all excited about the candidate that they like. Why does that happen? That happens because the candidate creates an environment where people feel like they have a purpose in following that person. That's what a great candidate does. Anyone who runs for president has to be very, very good at that, getting a bunch of people behind them and the idea of them and what they're about, because again, that gives people a sense of purpose, and that energy gets everybody else to start jumping on the bandwagon too. So the first people who jump on board get everybody else to follow on board, then everybody else jumps on board, then they win votes, and then they become president. That is exactly what I meant in point number 2 when I said social proof matters. This is the reason why a politician having a bunch of support and getting a bunch of financial donations and having a bunch of people at their rallies, this is the reason why they do that. This is the reason why the people running for president do rallies over and over again, knowing that the only people who go to the rallies are people who are already going to vote for them anyway. They're not going to the rallies to win votes. They're going to rallies to hype the crowd up, and those people are going to go hype up the people who are kind of lukewarm and get those people to come out and vote. That's the purpose of a rally. The purpose of a rally is not to win votes. Because everybody who comes to your rally when you're running for president, they already decided they're going to vote for you, and they might have already done it. All right, that's not the reason you do it. You do it for social proof. That's the whole purpose, social proof. Because people are followers, and when they see, damn, everybody's doing that, maybe I need to go take a look at that, and then they go do it. That is exactly how it works. So you got to give people a purpose. And this is how you can see a musical artist or an athlete, LeBron James, Steph Curry, musical artists, Beyonce, or the Beatles. The Beatles have been gone for years, but at least performing wise, they've been gone for years, but they have all of these devotees, right? These people who are like lifelong Beatles fans, or Donald Trump or Barack Obama. You see these people who have these big fan bases of people who get so passionate about talking about them, defending them, and cheering for them. Why is this? The reason that this happens is because people need a purpose, and cheering for Steph Curry or Barack Obama gives people a sense of purpose that they otherwise could not get in their own lives without that. And so what this celebrity person, let's just call them a celebrity, what they're doing is filling a void in people's souls by giving them a purpose, something to attach themselves to. And that's a very powerful thing. If you can harness it and you can make that work, not everybody does it. Those people are few and far between. But anyone who can do this, it builds up an audience builds up an indestructible bond between them and their audience. And you can move people to do unreasonable things when they are following someone this way. So the same way it works for a fan or a fan base, the same way it works in a cult, for example. So a cult and a fan base are actually the same thing. If you're talking about a strong fan base, it's just different words. So 4 key principles of human nature. Number 1, people will do and say inexplicable things that do not make sense to you, but understand it makes sense to them. Number 2, social proof matters. We are all followers, and humans are attracted to strong personalities and people who already have others following them, and they will get behind and follow too, because human beings are, by nature, we follow what other people do. We're social creatures. Number 3, emotion trumps logic every day of the week. People make decisions based on their emotions, and they come up with logical justifications, even if they don't make sense. And number 4, people yearn for purpose. When you can show people something to believe in, something to follow, a purpose to connect to, they will do whatever you ask them to do. Logic completely be damned. All that said, folks, workonyourgameuniversity.com. You want to work with me directly, that's the place to make it happen. Everybody have a great day. Work on your game. Got it.